What is up, Gamer Army? Welcome back to Psycho Gamer. I'm your host, Aubrey, and today we're going to talk about an insane auction that just went down. I'm sure many of you have been following on a couple of the different gaming news websites about a copy of The Legend of Zelda from the original Nintendo that is going for an insane amount of money, or actually sold for an insane amount of money. Stay tuned. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe. Turn on those post notifications, and we're going to talk about The Legend of Zelda right after this. All right, welcome back again, guys. Now, as you probably guessed from the title as well as my intro, that we're going to talk about this game, The Legend of Zelda, that was released way back in 1987 for the original Nintendo. Now, the game was a great game. Is it worth $870,000? Well, I guess it depends on how hard up of a collector you really are. So it was a very high graded game. So kind of an interesting name for a site, but it does look like the site is going to be dealing more with a lot of collectible video game items, such as sealed games from Nintendo and very, very, very hard to find high grade collectible games, just in general. So we're going to switch over into my computer. We're going to look at one little article I found online from Polygon. I'm sure some of you have probably already read it, but we're just going to take a look at it right now. All right, here we are on the Polygon website. Legend of Zelda cartridge sells for a record $870,000 at auction. So I'm sure a lot of you, once you read one of those articles from someplace like maybe Kotaku or one of your actual news outlets, because this actually came up on my news feed, and it was also on the radio this morning, and actually this afternoon, which was kind of crazy because they never talk about video games on talk radio. But when they came up with this, I had to go take a look and see for myself. Now, I did see when it originally posted, I think earlier this week, it started off at like $110,000, which is insane just by itself. But this price point right here put it at the most expensive game that has ever been sold. Now, this article actually goes on and talks about the previous record holder, which I believe was Super Mario Brothers, which sold for $660,000 just a few months ago. So, how crazy of a collector are you? What is the most that you guys have ever spent on a collectible game? I really couldn't tell you. I think the most I spent was on an Xbox game. It was a few $100s, but it was also Steel Battalion. If you guys haven't seen Steel Battalion, go ahead and look online, look it up. It was that big Xbox, original Xbox game that came with the big joysticks. So that's kind of a hard to find game now. I think it's worth quite a bit more than what I originally paid for it. But sealed copy of Legend of Zelda sold on Friday for $870,000. Actually, it was yesterday, so I'm sorry. Making it the highest priced video game ever sold at auction. Sale broke the previous record held by Super Mario Brothers, one for $660,000 in April. Both games are sold by Heritage Auctions, and the price on each includes a 20% buyer's fee. So 20% of the price that they have right there, it's gone right off the top, going right to the company that actually put the auction out. The deal dwarfs the previous sales of The Legend of Zelda conducted by the auctioning site. Prior to this, another high-end cartridge of the game sold for $50,400 in September. That's nothing to really snub your nose at. Makes the sale roughly 17 times the price of that earlier one. Now, it is factory sealed, rated at 9.0, A sealed by WATA, with 10 being the highest possible rating. So it's basically the highest rated version of this particular game. It's the only copy from the early production lines that the auction site has had an opportunity to offer, and I think they said there's actually two different versions. They actually have two copies of this. Possible to have to offer for many years. So you can take a look at it. The 3-screw cartridge. No Rev A, round SOQ, NES R, no code. Sealed A rating. That is a work of art. That is beautiful. It's definitely your gold cartridge in there. It's definitely not a gray one. So It does have the actual Nintendo seal. You can see it straight across there. They had their own unique way of sealing their games with the vacuum seal. 9.0 Seal A, first party H theme. Cover art, Gervin. Music composed by, basically talks about them. Produced by Shigeru Miyamoto. First appearance of Link, Zelda, Ganon, and the first game in the Legend of Zelda series. So I love Legend of Zelda. I played it tremendously back on the original Nintendo. I'm sure these days many of you are having kids and you're introducing them to real video games from back from our childhood. So that's not a bad thing. Start them small, and then they will appreciate some of the newer games, even though they'll probably get laughed at by some of their friends. But that's okay. You're teaching them history. History, in terms of video games, is amazing because there were so many amazing titles back then. So even if you chose just a handful of games from each console, leading them all the way up to the more current consoles, this would probably be one of the best ones that you could start them out with, obviously other than maybe Super Mario Brothers and some of your old Atari 2600 or Atari games just in general. It is widely believed the copy sold for is just one of 2 sealed NES TM copies created by Wata. Cartridge is a rare variant of The Legend of Zelda that was only produced for a few months in late 1987 before it was replaced by another, so there weren't too many of these that were actually released. Essentially, the copy's early sealed copy one could realistically hope to obtain, the description said. So, looking at this particular game makes me wish that I had kept most of my games from when I was a kid. I'm sure most of you are feeling the same way, and I'm sure our parents are feeling the same way about some of those old baseball cards and comic books, kicking yourselves that you let your parents throw those things away. Well, you now get to be the parents to relive your own childhood by purchasing some of these games. Not specifically maybe by buying the original Nintendo and some of these games. You can buy things like the NES Classic, the SNES Mini. So there's many of these different forms and ways that you can buy these games, even through 3DSs, if you still have one. Nintendo Switch, if you can get these games, then why not get them? There's also ways to play them through emulators and mods on different cabinets, like your arcade 1-ups. A lot of people are getting those, and they are modding those to play many different games through emulators, as well as arcade machines as well. So I think this just goes to show that gaming and gaming collecting is not dead. It's definitely not dead at all, guys. So if you want to start collecting, start getting sealed games. Start getting boxed games. You don't necessarily need to start getting sealed games, because sealed games, obviously, as you can tell from this particular game, it's very expensive to get into right out of the gate. You could just start getting games that are in the original boxes. Start with something small. I mean, you don't need to get super expensive games. Get a couple of boxed sports games. There's plenty of games out there that you could start with. There's a billion copies of open Super Mario Brothers games that you could probably get for somewhere between $20 and $50 just to start your collection. So, how do you know if it's a good game? There's price guides that you can look up online to find out. You can go to pawn shops. You can go to flea markets. Sometimes you go to those dollar stores or thrift stores, and you can find some great stuff. The best thing that I ever found in a thrift store was a top loader NES. I found it for $20. It was selling at that time, about 15 years ago, it was still selling for about $150. Now, I haven't looked the prices up, but I'm sure that it is up there in price, maybe even 2 or 3 times more than what I originally paid for that top loader, because there were so few of them actually made. So that's going to do it for the video, guys. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that this person really overpaid? I think he really did, but if it makes him happy and this person has the money for it, hey, by all means, go ahead and spend that money. That could buy houses for many, many people. A lot of people would love to have that kind of money to pay off their houses, their student loans. But we really can't knock the person for actually having the funds to do this. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it. Appreciate you guys coming out and checking out the videos once again. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe if you have not done so yet, guys. And stay tuned. We are going to be talking about more stuff coming up. So until then, guys, game on.